All right. Hi, everybody. Today I'm doing a brief interview, podcast kind of thing with a friend of mine and uh, also a foreign trained dentist, Dr. Ibrahim Abu Altash. And I was fortunate that I got to work with him during his interview process last year. And today I have with him. Thank you for your time, Ibrahim, and thank you for being up here.
Thank you, Dr. Adriel Williams. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's funny, I was telling him like this was the same room just a year ago when he was going through the CAAPID cycle, and now he's accepted to Loma Linda. He's starting his schooling in 1 month. So it's like a whole different time.
Yes, definitely very big change.
Yes. So just to let everybody know, so uh, Abraham or Ibrahim, however, what do you prefer, Ibrahim or
Okay, so yeah, it's Ibrahim Abu Hantash.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ibrahim Abu al Anhad.
Abu
Okay,
Hantash.
Antash. I always get it wrong. I'm sorry for that. Okay,
It's
so
no worries.
you're half Palestinian, you're half American. You did your schooling in United States, your early year. Then you went to
Turkey.
Turkey for your dental school. So you've been through a lot of experience, which is a good thing. And just to let other people know who are watching this, his profile was quite different from most of the candidates I worked with because he has a lot of diverse experience. So I'm going to talk to him about his acceptance in Loma Linda. He got accepted to University of Tufts during his second cycle and in Mexico as well. So that's a little bit unique. So we'll go through that and ask about all the things that he did, which helped him to get accepted in his second cycle. So, Ibrahim, can you tell us about your overall process, about the acceptances, and as compared to applying to first cycle, in that year you didn't got accepted, but then you went into the second cycle. How were things different?
So, in my first cycle, actually, I completed my boards somewhere around in June.
Hmm.
So it was kind of late into the cycle, and I was not able to apply to as many universities as I wanted to. However, I remained positive and I still applied and I did my best. And I was fortunate to get actually a interview at ATSU in St. Louis. However, I did realize after the interview and after that cycle was complete that unfortunately, my application wasn't as strong as the other candidates. Um, then I came to realize that, things didn't work out that first cycle. I didn't have enough time, and I'm going to apply for my second cycle.
So
So what I actually changed,
here's a question I'm going to ask. So when you obviously first year you applied, you spent all this money, you've been preparing. How did you,
correct.
was it disappointing or like how did you, obviously it would be disappointing, but did it take a little bit of time to gather some courage and say, okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it better and make sure I will make a mark this time. What was your mindset at that time?
Yes, correct. I actually did feel disappointed at some point, and I'm just the type of person that I like to learn my mistakes and what I'm doing wrong. So when I realized that my SOP could have done better, my LORs weren't, done as professional as they could be, then I kind of accepted the fact that I could have done better. And at this moment, I was actually, a little more happy. I had some courage in myself. It helped me actually get myself back up because I knew that I had a mistake. It needed to be fixed, and I worked on it. And that's what helped me a lot during my second cycle is knowing and understanding your mistakes so that you can make that change.
So when you said, and I'm not going to ask you for any names, uh, in the second cycle, when you started preparing on your SOP and LOAs, did you took professional help?
Yes, so what I did is I would write my story, everything about me, and I would make sure that it fits me and suits me well, and it's presentable to admissions. And then I would get professional help and have them basically proofread it, make sure everything fits in well. And that's something that actually helped me get another stance and another opinion from
So
someone else.
here's a very important point. If you're a foreign trained dentist who's listening to this, so Ibrahim, what he did, he took professional help, but he made sure that it is his story. I started working with him during his interview preparation. And one of the things that we worked back and forth, and we did multiple sessions, I think amount less session, we spent a lot of time together. And one of the things was to figure out his story, because this person, as I mentioned, he has a diverse background, went to Turkey, which most people aren't didn't like. Most foreign trained dentists don't have dental schooling from Turkey. So he had that, which was diverse. He lived in California, did community work, was a sportsman back in his high school. And then we had to put up all of this together. And he looks like he looks like a big guy, strong, but trust me, he's a very nice guy. He's very meek. When I worked with him, I had to push him, like, be more confident, bring some aggression, and we had to bring out his story together, because I think it was very unique, and presenting it in the right manner, as he mentioned, was the biggest key thing in his second cycle. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ibrahim.
Correct. You're correct 100%. And Dr. Adriel, I truly stand by you, and I agree that you are a very good coach, and you make sure that you bring the best out of everyone.
Well, thank you for that. So moving on next. So when you started applying, you told me that you applied to 25 schools. That's a wide number of that's a big number. Usually I recommend 10,
Correct.
15, but you went big, you went for 25, which is a lot of money, right? And
Correct.
you did multiple sessions with me, and I knew you spent a lot to even get accepted before that, because even with me you did multiple sessions. So what was your thought process in regards to financial side when you were applying, because even applying to 25 school is a lot of money.
So, in regards to like finances, basically, I have my parents that are actually helping me throughout the process, and I took it as if I don't get accepted this year, and I don't put in all the hard work and the effort and the finances that I need to try my hardest this year, then if I don't get accepted, I will feel the I will feel a need that I'll feel the need that I have actually not done the best, you know? I didn't do everything that I could do. And, spending that extra and doing all that, yeah, it is a lot. However, once you get accepted and once you've tried every chance, you feel genuinely, warmth and like you did your
It's
best.
worth it, yeah. So that,
Yeah,
just to rephrase what you said, and some people might not have their parents in their back, like, who are supporting them, and I was one of them. The point that Ibrahim is making, when he's going in, he went all in. Like, he was like, if what's more expensive, that's what I tell people. Is it more expensive to wait 1 year, or is it more expensive to spend $5,000 more? If you ask
correct.
me, as a dentist, you can make $5,000, like, in a month, or more than that, way more than that, as a dentist. But wasting a year, and we aren't getting any younger, right? We are
Right,
already at an
right.
age that physically losing every year and not being in the profession will cost us more. So that's what I
Yeah.
tell people. If you're going in, save and then go all in. Like, don't half-heartedly walk into this and see, oh, whether I'll get in or not. If you're gonna go in, make everything count. You will have to spend a lot. You will have to work a lot. You would be anxious. This is a lot of things going on. But by the end of the day, that's what makes your story more worth it.
Yes,
So
100%. I agree. And just to further emphasize what you've mentioned, so when I applied to every school, for instance, I got into Loma Linda,
mhm,
which was one of the most competitive schools here in
mhm,
California when it
mhm.
comes to the bench test and the
Interview, yeah.
interview itself as well. And, it's good to try all your chances in all the schools because there are some schools that only accept 5 students. And a good friend of mine, he actually got accepted into Western, which only accepts 5.
Mhm.
And he was never expecting that. And for that reason, I think it's good to just take all the chances that you can, because if you don't take them all, then you will feel some type of regret.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And here I'll tell something. to the people who are listening, every year you don't get accepted, it's not just that you lost money. A part of you gets very badly discouraged. So the
Yes, correct,
morale you had on the first year and you didn't get accepted, it goes down. Next year you go down and it piles up on you. You don't feel good about
correct,
yourself when you look yourself in the mirror. Your
correct.
spouse or your colleagues or your friends or family look down at you. So that's what I tell people. If you're gonna go in, knock every door that there's possible. That's one of the things I've seen people who get accepted is that when they are going in, they won't leave any stone unturned. That's the
Yep,
biggest thing.
yep, that's
So
correct, 100%. I agree.
so you went to and in the second year you mentioned like in the second cycle now you were more prepared, you were timely. That's the biggest thing. This time you were applying on time, but you spent invested in yourself to going to Stevenson, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
So I did go to Stevenson and I did the 10-day course there,
mhm,
and that truly like it helped my application so much because here in the US, you can get experience basically by assisting. You can get experience by doing courses like this. And when you're assisting, you don't actually get the hands-on that a dentist should be doing. The work as a dentist, you don't get that hands-on work as assisting. You're just holding the suction. And, when you take the Stevenson courses, it kind of shows to admission or any CE course that's hands-on, it shows admissions that you are furthering your skills and honing on and crafting skills like in your preps, and you're taking the furthest effort to try to become a better dentist here in the United States.
and I'm gonna tell you for, and I've said this in video, my colleagues, my friends who had went to Stevenson in dental school, and I wasn't able to because COVID happened. I booked it twice, the flight canceled, everything shut down, so I had my money refunded. I saved that money, but in the dentist school, there was so much more stress at me. And my friends who went to Stevenson, they used to go in sim lab, do everything in 30 minutes and walk out. And I would be spending time in the evening to just to make sure I get my preps right, I get my class two right. And I feel if you have the opportunity, go to Stevenson. It's expensive, but by the end of the day, if it makes you a better restorative dentist, do it.
Yeah, and
So
also
yep,
to further explain that, and Stevenson also he does not only just give you the course. If you stand out in that course and you have the skills, he will give you an award. And this award actually you put into your CAAPID cycle, and you get to explain that. And I actually received that reward, and it was a competency award.
that's good,
So
man. That's
that was
great.
something I was able to use in my interview. It was something I was able to use in my application, and it just strengthens your application. It strengthens you as a person, and it just helps you speak louder.
And that's an important point. And I've never met Dr. Stevenson, Richard Stevenson in person. He's not paying me for saying this, but that man is an institution in himself because he's a professor emeritus from UCLA. He knows the dental school system. He knows the foreign trained dentistry program so well. And even the programs know him. When I was in Colorado, my school did an online webinar with Dr. Stevenson. And during his introduction, he will tell you that he's been taught by people who were GV Black student. So he comes from the legacy of GV Black, which is a very
Correct.
big thing.
Correct.
So
Yep.
I would suggest, like, regardless of the money, when you see some people with so much wisdom, it's not about money with them. You just go in and grab whatever you can because it's not about money with these kind of people. Okay, so enough with Dr. Stevenson. I hope he watches this and likes the video at some point in his life. But the next thing I was going to say is that you did research in your second year, right?
Correct.
Like you did research at University of Tufts and you were living
Correct.
in California and you were doing research in Tufts, which is in Boston. How was this going on?
So when I was studying for the boards, actually, I became part of a community. Like they have Facebook groups, they have WhatsApp groups, And you slowly realize that there are only a certain amount of students, and you run into different students every day, either it be on Facebook or it be on WhatsApp, and you ask questions and you get to know this community. And once I kind of got to know this community, I would ask people like if they knew any research or if they know anybody who was in research or any type of things that would help me to increase my application. I was lucky to meet this girl who was a student at Tufts,
Hmm.
and she actually helped me get into the research. And I just kept texting her, and asking her, "Hey, is there a spot open? Is there a spot open?" And she then told me that I would have to, speak with the Hispanic International Mission and get an approval from them. And then I got the approval after asking for over a month, and I was able to join the research, and we actually did on how climate change affects oral health. And it was something that helped me so much on not only my application, but with myself as well, because I've never done research, and it was truly an eye opener, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So when it came to the point where you got accepted, so just to help people out, I was asking to him, during in second cycle you got accepted to TOEFL Loma Linda, in Mexico, and waitlisted in Indiana. And I remember he and I were very intensely working for Indiana's interview. Well, I
Correct.
think you were better off than me. I got straight rejection from them. You at least got waitlisted, so that's an improvement. Okay, so these are four schools. Almost you were almost there in four school. You mentioned you went to Stevenson, you did community work, and you did more dental assisting experience as well. Correct me, like, was how much
Yes.
was that effective?
So I'll begin first with like the community service part.
Hmm.
So I've always been a person like growing up that's always been kind of involved in community service. So it's something that always kind of fit my criteria. I come from a small city here in California where it's basically a very a lot of poverty here.
Hmm.
So it's like something that actually really helped me in my application, because once they seen that I came from a city of poverty, and I've dedicated over like 2,000 hours into just community service. And it was something that truly made my application stand out, because us as healthcare professionals, we need to emphasize our time and our effort into our community, like not only with health, but as also with helping them in other ways. So that was something that actually strengthened my application, because it
Hmm.
shows that I have an interaction between people, and it's something that all the schools actually require.
Okay, makes sense. All right, so here's a question. You got accepted to Mexico, Tufts, and Loma Linda. While Loma Linda as compared in these three schools?
So I actually have a few reasons why. On a personal level,
Hmm.
I live close to the school,
Hmm.
and it's always been a school since, as I mentioned, as Dr. Adriel mentioned earlier, I grew up here in California. So anytime we had any issues, or anytime I found myself in any health struggle, I would actually go to Loma Linda. And it was a hospital that has always taken care of me and taken care of everybody here in the San Bernardino County. So it's well known, and they're well known to make the man whole. So meaning that they bring in religious characteristics, and they implement it into their health. And that's something that I found very different from any other school.
Hmm.
And also, me myself, I was caught in, a bad accident younger when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and I was transferred and airlifted to Loma Linda. And at that moment, I realized something different. It made me feel like I was, a part of their family there. They truly cared for me. They prayed for me and everything, and it was just something that I found very different and very fascinating, to be honest.
I've heard actually right now in US the highest life expectancy is actually in that area of Loma Linda, in that
Yes,
town or
so
city.
the city of Loma Linda is actually called the Blue Zone,
Hmm.
and it's called the Blue Zone because, as you mentioned, it is the people that live there have the longest expectancy in life due to
Lifestyle.
their good health, yes, lifestyle. Yeah, with
And
them
people
being vegan and no caffeine
that
and there's
that
several other
that's the
things.
thing. I've actually worked with a dentist who was a 7-day Adventist, and most people who don't know, it's a sect of Christianity, like how they are Catholic, Protestant, like how it's in Islam you have
Yes.
Sunnis and Shias. There's a in
Yep.
Christianity they are 7-day Adventists, and one of the key thing the school actually talks to, and you can tell me better, that they talk about that you're not allowed to drink alcohol. They don't allow meat, right? Pork or meat up
They don't
there.
allow meat, they don't allow smoking, they don't allow
So you're
caffeine.
gonna lose all the fun up there. I'm joking.
Hey, you know what? So actually my religion is very close to the things that they follow. So, I don't kind of
Yeah,
find a shock, it's not
yeah,
really
yeah.
so it fits me
That's
well, thankfully.
that's good. Yeah, well, you will live longer. That's a good part. So,
Maybe the
I'm
caffeine part, we might struggle with, but
yeah. Well, it's good to see you up there. So here's the question. So I met you when you were starting to getting, even before you were getting invites. How did you find out about me? Like I remember I just received a text from you and we talked on phone, but how did you got to know regarding my services?
so I was in those Facebook groups that I was mentioning, and I did see that you made a post that you were doing interview sessions and you were coaching. So I really was looking for somebody who can, not only just give me information, but I need somebody to actually hear me out, process it, help me organize things. And that's something that I heard from other students about you, that you actually take one story and you help them express it in the best way. So when I heard that about you, as I mentioned before, I'm going all in or I'm not going at all. So that means I said, let me try, I want to try Adriel and see what he has to offer. And thankfully, from that moment, everything just went up from there.
And I
And
I remember you were amongst the very few people who would say, Doc, how many days do you have open in the week? I want to book all of those days because I want to do a
yeah,
session. Like I am not leaving one day alone. Like I'm gonna prepare and I'm gonna be on a Zoom call doing a next session with you. And I was like, okay, but I'm gonna be coming back from work. I'm gonna be tired. You're like, it's fine. We don't care if we have to do a Zoom call. And
yep,
you lived in California. You are living in California and I'm in Ohio, so there was a time difference too. So yep, I'm happy I was part of your journey. So here's the to make things brief and
pleasure's mine, doctor.
uh, to make things brief for people. If somebody right now is a reapplicant, and I know you have actually a lot of your friends have reached out to me after you got accepted, but there are people who are applying who are reapplicants who did not get accepted. And keeping in mind, some people also have they do uh, not everybody has financial constraints, but they have limitation, psychological
Yeah,
limitation to how much they're going to spend. What would be
correct.
your advice overall, imagining if you were giving advice to yourself like 2 years ago? What would you tell them so they can, this cycle is starting, that would help them make it worth it this time, get it done? What would you say?
So my biggest advice is try your chances, try as many schools as you financially can. First of all, apply for them all,
Hmm.
then go into deep description and read every school on their requirements and
Hmm.
write them all down on a big sheet of paper. You will find that most of the schools require the same things. Community service, some schools might require a few more hours of community service compared to the other one, but generally speaking, there are a lot of things that are very relevant. So I would advise, for example, when I applied to Loma Linda. I made sure that I took out everything regarding my faith and the Seventh-day Adventists and, my faith and how it relates to Seventh-day Adventists. And I made sure I wrote it down on a paper. And so I can develop all this information so I give it to them, as a whole. Once I did that, I kind of secured Loma Linda, and I also knew that they love community service. So that's something that I also began to increase, and not only just with ours, but different organizations. So I can say that I did here, I did with the homeless. I also helped out with, just in the hospital, like things like this. So that's something that they really focus on in Loma Linda. So you want to make sure that for every school, you're being very attentive in the description and you're writing everything down to where everything that you do in the future or that year, you're covering those points. Because if you're not focusing on that and a school requires 300 hours and you have 200, you're not
Screwed.
there.
Yeah, you're screwed. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that's something that you really, really need to focus on. That's something I truly, because my first cycle, that first half of a cycle, um, I did around 200 hours of community service, and I applied for Indiana the first cycle, and I got rejected. But I believe that I could be wrong, but I believe that they required 300 minimum,
Hmm.
and then I realized that, okay, after I applied and got rejected, that, hey, I missed this small sentence right here. And this sentence, one sentence, made a huge difference in my application.
True. And these are the minute detail which are actually, if you pay attention, you can save so much money and time.
Yep,
If you can go in and see this school only takes people with green card and you don't need to apply. And just how you're talking about Indiana, I applied to Loma Linda, and Loma Linda requires you to send your transcript from your dental school to them and mail it to them directly.
correct.
And
Yes,
this was COVID when I was applying, and my transcript was sent from Pakistan by somebody, and they never reached. It was COVID. They never reached. I wasted my money, never got invite, anything like that. So these are some of the details you should calculate before. And as he mentioned, this can be planned properly. Otherwise, you're just going to fail. If you don't plan, you're going to end up
yep.
failing, spending money that is wasted now. So any other thing that you would like to focus on regarding interview side, regarding bench exam?
Yes, so in regards to the bench exam, my best advice would be that you go and find there. Sometimes you'll find groups that will make like a WhatsApp, or they'll make, some type of messenger, some way of communication weeks before, or maybe a month before the exam. For example, for like Loma Linda, they had a WhatsApp group, and it was helpful because I was able to see my competition. I like to see my competition. I like to see where I stand, and once I know where I stand, it's either I need to work harder or I need to work smarter. There's one of the two. And that was something that was very, very helpful when it came to bench test. And also, as we mentioned before, Dr. Stevenson, he helped me a lot with the bench test because when I took the course, he was telling us, okay, day one, we're going to work for Loma Linda's class two, which is this, 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 this. He would break it down and he would tell us. So in our heads, we're mentally preparing ourselves and physically, preparing our teeth to make sure that we can get that 5 out of 5 as Loma Linda requires. So that was something very helpful. Communication is key. Know your competition. Know who is around you. Because if you go walking in blind, you're going to be surprised.
Well, you just made me remind me of football coaches, man. You were a
Yep.
football
Yep.
player, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that's good. And one of the things I'll tell you about Ibrahim, even when he was doing Zoom sessions with me for interview prep, he would write down notes afterward. Like he would have like big notes of the, because when I do interview, we do a Zoom call, it's recorded, and he would have access to it. And the next time we would sit down, he would have written down all the transcript. And he was going into detail, and it was shocking for me too. But I think that your ability, and here's the thing, I'm just telling you, while talk, like we know each other since a year, you have the
Yeah.
ability to go into very minute detail, which mostly men like us don't do. We are like big thinker, just haul through and just push through things. But you have ability to actually sit down and go into a lot of detail and write, and especially somebody who can spend time and write it down. That's a very unique ability, because it requires a lot of energy, man. It's a lot of time to sit down and write everything. So I personally just letting you know, that's like your superpower. I'm just telling you by working with you
Thank you.
as a colleague. So use it well. Obviously it's going to cost you time whenever you're going to use it, but that's kind of like your main strength in this whole process. And if somebody's watching this and have similar personality type, and don't think just because you can sit down and write things you'll get accepted. That's only a part of it. But if you're somebody who can pay attention to details, especially as a dentist, as an applicant now, this will really help you. So before we finish this interview, any other thing that you would like to mention or share? Could be regarding anything.
Yeah, so I would actually like to mention regards to interview. So first things first, always contact Dr. Adriel.
I
He
paid him
will
for this one. This
make
is paid. I'm joking. Okay.
no, so yeah, so first contact Dr. Adriel. He will help if you're lost and you have so much information and you don't know what to do with it. I genuinely, speaking from my heart, I would say talk with Adriel because he will help you organize everything and make sure that you efficiently speak everything well, you know? So that way you're not stressed or overwhelmed in the interview and it gives you a lot of comfort. So as Dr. Adriel mentioned, when you're in an interview, it's important that you know the person across from you. When I knew who my interviewer was, I learned so much more about them. And a key that I kind of use myself is once I know something about that person, like a good thing, or they like this certain material that they like to use, or however, I will indirectly mention it in the interview to show them that I know so much about them, but I have similar interests at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay, I know about this. I know about this technique. We discuss it. But for the sake of viewers, this is a very important point. Okay, my name is Dr. Adriel William. I teach in school XYZ in Ohio, right? You're coming in for interview. How will you find what's common between you and me? How would you research? Explain it to the audience.
So for instance, for like I when I had my interview in Tufts and when I had my interview in Loma Linda, um, and even Indiana, like 3 days, 4 days before the interview, and sometimes even 2 weeks before the interview, they'll let you know like your interview is with this person. So that gives you enough time to go and, you know, find everything you know about that person or everything that speaks about on the internet. So once I found that I looked somewhere deep, 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 that they like using this certain material, you know. And I mentioned that when I do my class twos, I like to use calcium hydroxide when it's, you know, very close to the pulp or however. So that was something that basically got him to understand that we have similarities, and that was a way of just connecting with them because they hear everyone has done experiences. They hear that everybody has done community service. They hear it all the time that you want to come to the school, you know, I'm sure they're aware of that. That's why you're in the interview. So there are things that you need to dig deeper
True. And
and be
that's true.
that. Yeah, that's
I'm
it, right?
I'm gonna elaborate a little bit, just what you said on top of it, that if you're going for an interview and you have somebody already given a name to you, just go ahead and Google it, YouTube them. You will find something up there. If you don't find it, don't like. I don't want people to be a super stalker and start finding their houses in US. But if you can find any information, even there's a website called Goodread. It can show what people read books on, anything. But here's the key thing: if you found something like somebody has a research article on removable partial denture or an MTA, just don't read the title and go in the interview and say, hey, I like MTAs too. And then they say, oh, really? Tell us more about it. And then like you're screwed, right? So don't play it like a pickup line, like just you read the title. If you're truly interested, do your research. Don't play this as a trick, otherwise it's going to bite you in the back. So
Oh, yes, correct.
if you truly found something online, make sure you read about all of it and find something that is truly common between you and him. For example, if
Correct.
Ibrahim is taking my interview and I got to know he plays American football and I don't know anything about it, and I just go in and say, hey, I like football, and you say, who's your favorite player? And I say, Kobe Bryant, right? That just screws up everything because I didn't knew I was mixing basketball with football. So something like that.
Perfect.
So what he's saying is totally right. Make sure you do your research. And on the other hand, if you don't have information to the interviewer, the second thing you can do is when you walk into that interview or when the Zoom call started, they will give you some introduction. Hi, my name is this doctor. I'm a faculty of community, or I'm a faculty of pros, or I'm just listen to their introduction. And from there, you can find something which might be common from there.
Yep.
But I know these
Correct.
are quite tricky fine lines, and it takes some emotional intelligence and time. And obviously Ibrahim already gave a couple of interviews when he was going in Tufts. I remember I talked to him after his tough interview. He was like, my confidence was very different. I stood up, I shook hands, and I said, I'll see you in future. And he got accepted, right? Your confidence was at a whole different level because he already gave some interviews. So the practice or being in that drill kind of made you more confident about it. But
Correct.
yeah, these are some things that the viewers should think about it, and these have to be done right. It's not something you should play just because you heard it on YouTube and you're just going to do it and not knowing the whole detail. If you want to use these strategies, just make sure you go, as he said, dive deeper into it and understand the whole dynamic, because this is part of emotional intelligence. So
Exactly.
I think this is a lot of information for folks out there. So hopefully, if they want to reach out to you, he studies in Loma Linda. He's on Instagram as well. I will hopefully tag him in this video. You can ask him questions. If you like the video, you can hit the like button. That will help me with the analytics. More people can see this. It would be an encouragement for more interviews like this. And I appreciate, Doctor, your time and the viewers who
I
are
appreciate
watching
your
this.
time, Dr. Adriel. It's such a pleasure seeing you, and you're
Yeah,
just a great guy.
I got a new tie since the last year. So
I like it. I like it.
I'm
It's
just joking
stunning.
around with you, but all
It's
right.
stunning.
All right. Good seeing you, brother. We'll see you in California.